Hello and welcome to another episode of the FPL Hangover podcast, where we raise the bar and lower the tone, all things FPL related. This week, with open arms, we've welcomed FPL back into our lives. Not unlike a prodigal son who, for the best part of a decade, has been off gallivanting around Southeast Asia, finding himself. Only for the little ingrate to turn around and kick us square in the ghoulies. Of course, that wasn't without a little help from his friends Pep Roulette and VA Are You Fucking Serious? And speaking of serious, this man's as serious as a goddamn heart attack. My podcast partner in crime, Seamus. How are you getting on, my friend?
Yep. How are you, boy? Boy, yeah. I am buoyed by my wildcard, and I've pulled some points back on you, and I'm feeling a bit better in the world with a green arrow under my hat.
Yeah.
I'm actually wearing a hat, as you'll see right now.
Yeah, it's all the viewers can see as well.
Yeah.
That's right, folks. We're streaming this live from Times Square, New York.
Yeah. And thanks to our Patreon supporters for, comping those flights for us, basically.
Yeah, and the prostitutes. Yeah, that was an added bonus I did not expect.
Yep.
But we're here now, and we're here to talk FPL. And as you said, Seamus, you came into this week with a wildcard in your hand, and you got a green arrow. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I pulled that wildcard out of my back pocket, and on any normal week, a score of 44 would be a bad result. But in a week like this, it's above the average. The average is looking somewhere between... We're trying to figure out if it's 30... There's a lot of points coming off the bench. At the moment, this is 36. I don't know if that includes points coming off the bench or not, but it's not going to be higher than about 40 anyway. Yeah. So I've got a 400k green arrow, so I'm up to 1.45 million now. Slowly chipping away at it. My team looks in a better state, and I'm enjoying the game because I've just gone for a few different players and changed around my team. So yeah, I'm in good form.
You're feeling better about it. You were a bit down in the dumps last week.
Yeah, I would say we were texting the other day. You were asking me, what was I saying? Was that, are you not motivated? I was asking you, are you suffering from a lack of FPL motivation?
Something like that.
And then you pointed that question back at me.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, it's just hard to get excited. It's not depressing, it's just hard to get excited about FPL at the moment, especially when you're doing a podcast. This kind of feels a bit like work sometimes now. But there's no high scores. Second week in a row where the average is going to be 40 or lower. And I think, you're seeing, people kind of getting a bit fatigued. But all it takes is one big week and we'll all be joyous again.
Yeah, exactly. All you need is that big green arrow that halves your rank in half, and all of a sudden the motivation comes seeping back into you. And I completely understand where you're coming from. And as you said, FPL fatigue is something that I think, considering how, as we mentioned before we started recording, how kind of low the average score has been for the last few weeks, it's not surprising to see FPL fatigue kind of creeping in that little bit faster this year.
And what I've noticed as well, I think we're just after coming off an international break, but the last international break, if I recall again, was like a really low scoring week before the international break, and then another one immediately after the international break, which is about after happening again.
Yeah.
So that means that lull is there for 2 weeks, and I think you're going to see players dropping out of the game. But what I'm actually noticing in some of my mini leagues is that players who would have dropped out again by now are still playing because they're still in the mini leagues, basically.
No, I've noticed that myself. I've actually noticed like a lot of players who aren't even looking at their teams too much. Maybe they've made like a handful of transfers in the last 9 game weeks, are up in the top kind of halves, top thirds of their mini leagues, and all because they weren't changing their team too much. They're not chasing points, and the players that they had at the start of the season are kind of coming, good every now and again.
Yeah, and I think what's happening is a lot of players who haven't touched their team too much have realised, I'm doing okay at this fantasy league. I must log on this week, make some changes, and kind of keeping that involvement there. So it's a bit of both. I don't know if we're actually losing too many players. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe we're still seeing players engaging.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to keep the game going when you're not looking at 2-3 million overall ranks, but it makes us look like fools.
Yeah, how did your game week score? So I said I've got 44, and I know I've done better than you.
You did better than me by about 14 points, Seamus. I had a pretty miserable game week. I was happy just to have the 30, because nothing pisses me off more than having a overall score of 28 or 26 or something like that. That's real shit.
Yeah, 20 anything is bad. I didn't realize it was that low. I thought you were like mid-30s.
No, I got 2 points today for Aubameyang. That brought me to 28, and I have a fantastic 2 points coming off my bench for Sayunku to bring me to 30. So that saw me get a red arrow this week. I'm familiar with it all too well this season, and I dropped from my rank of 350 Tau down to about 530. Yeah, that's 350 backwards, Seamus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but so yeah, it's a little fucking irritating. You know, I got 3 green arrows in a row, slowly creeping up the ranks, kind of chipping away at it, and then one shitty week knocks me back. And it's a week where, to be honest with you, I was like a lot of weeks this season. I was pretty confident going into it. I was happy with my team. I was happy with every single player I had, with maybe the exception of Trent, who, you know, when you're away to Man United, especially because I support the team, I'm never going to be rooting for him too much.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be expecting too much. That wasn't the case for Robertson owners, who would have been happy with their 8-point return. But no, Trent would have been the only player going into this game week that I wasn't too psyched about. And it didn't matter because they all fucking blanked on me. I think that was the story of this week. I kind of alluded to it in the intro. A lot of blanks, a lot of pep roulette, seeing Aguero, Otamendi not starting, Salah's injury, a lot of players missing, all the captain blanks. It was just a week of absolute dross.
Yeah, so of that dross, what would have been your highlight?
My highlight this week, there wasn't a whole lot to pick, from, and me, I like to think outside the box a little bit with these highlights. And if I was to be 100% honest with you, it would be Salah not starting this week. Salah not even being on the team. Because my transfers last week, I had 2 free transfers in the bank, and I decided I was coming off Salah, coming off the Liverpool midfield for a couple of weeks while their fixtures toughened up. A lot easier with Salah having a yellow flag and not really delivering for the last few weeks. So my plan was always to come off Liverpool and maybe go with a premium forward, Aubameyang, Vardy. I went with Aubameyang. He did bupkis, but either way, I felt justified coming off Salah because he dropped to 12.4 and he didn't start. Because I was actually shitting a brick. I was like, this is that move Seamus made last season when he came off Salah and Salah went on a fucking crazy scoring streak.
And am I right to say this is the first time in something like 36 game weeks, or no, how many game weeks did
48 game weeks.
48 game weeks.
46.
46 game weeks that you haven't had Salah.
Yeah. Kept him all last season. He was an ever-present in my team and I had him from the start of this season. So, yeah, 46 long game weeks.
And you surely had him like the last 6 months of the season before that as well, if you think about it.
Yeah, very possible. Very possible.
You could be talking 60-odd game weeks nearly.
Yeah, it was a big move for me. That's why it took so kind of, why I was never sure of it. I was like, this, what am I doing? But then I thought, because of the length of time I've held on to him, surely change shit up a little bit.
That definitely I find is a temptation. You're kind of going, well, look, it's a game. I want to make moves. I don't want to make mistakes, but I want to like try and make gains. And if they turn out to be mistakes, look, that's what happens. That's the nature of the game. So I think last season you were very much sticking with him. And I think there was times where you wanted to come off him near the end, especially when Mane was doing well. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you were happy with him, but you were very steadfast in your convictions.
Yeah, I think I'm not entirely sure. My memory is not what it used to be, but if it is serving me correctly, I believe you might have had Mane, which kept me on Salah. Yeah. For the end of last season. Otherwise, I would have easily been looking for a bit of a differential. I think I did actually have him till the end because I remember we triple captained him for the Fulham and you triple captained
for Mane.
Yeah. So no, I did have him for the end of the season. So yeah, that 46 game week is probably longer than I thought. But either way, it's a bit Schadenfreude-esque. But that was my highlight.
Your highlights are always Schadenfreude.
I'm a bitter bastard.
Yeah,
I'm a bitter bastard. But look, you're not. And what was your highlight for the week?
My highlight was Callum Hudson-Odoi getting the assists in the Chelsea game because especially when Mount was taken off and Hudson-Odoi was kept on. Obviously, Mount has quite high ownership, and as does Tammy Abraham. Abraham's been pulled off by Frank Lampard quite a lot this season, and I mean that literally. He's been taken off around the 60-70 minute mark. Batshuayi's been coming on. Haven't seen much of Giroud at all. I don't even know if he's fit. He must be fit though. He's just not fancied, I guess. Too old for a man like Frank.
He's getting on, and I mean, look at the style that Frank's playing with. That kind of fast, attacking, pacey, formation. And yeah, it's not a surprise to see Giroud not getting too many games. But I was expecting probably a bit more from Batshuayi, considering he kind of fills the same criteria as Abraham a little bit. But
he didn't take off Abraham anyway. He kept him on. Abraham hit the post and then had a goal that was like almost hit the back of the net, but all of a sudden, what's that guy, right back guy?
I have no idea.
Yedlin.
I know
Yedlin came in out of nowhere. I think he's got cornrows now or something like that, and he tipped the ball wide. So that should have been a goal for those who captained Tammy. But it was great to see that Mount was the one pulled off and not Hudson-Odoi, who then slipped it for. And he was excellent that game. Even Match of the Day showed highlights of his and analysis of his highlights and stuff like that. He was putting in a lot of dangerous quality balls. Could have had a couple more assists. He set up Mount at one stage too, and and it nearly got through to Pulisic for another goal as well at one stage. So to see him get that assist, which gave him the 3 bonus points, and he was one of my differentials on my wildcard, so got 9 points from him. That made a big difference to me, and that was definitely my highlight.
Yeah, no, I think you were right to be very happy with Hudson-Odoi. As you said, Match of the Day pointing out how influential he was in that game, and he did. He had an absolute stormer, played out of his skin. It wasn't a surprise to see Frank not substituting him when he was playing that well. Everything dangerous was coming through him, and I think he's won. He's already risen to 6.0 from his 5.9 price. He's up to 6 now. I would be surprised if he doesn't start game week 10 at 6.1.
Yeah, maybe. It's these double price rises are kind of few and far between. It'll be interesting to monitor the net transfers, but I think that was one of the guys I said I'm going to try and throw in a couple of differentials here. He very almost became Yarmolenko in my wildcard team.
Yeah.
So to see him score, and when Yarmolenko hadn't started and only came on at half time, and I'd already known he just got 1 point, that definitely was enjoyable, because I was like, okay, that's one decision to make correct.
Yeah, and I think that as you mentioned, Yarmolenko not starting, that was the player I got in for Salah, and probably mainly the reason why Salah is my highlight, not playing is my highlight of the week, is because with Yarmolenko not starting, I was fully sure Salah was going to start to score. I was like, oh, of course, this will be,
This would be highlighted as why the hell did you get rid of Salah for Yarmolenko? I get it.
I'll have to justify it. But look, that's enough highlights. I want to bring things down into the dumps a bit now, and I want you to point out your low light for the week, Seamus.
Yeah, well, the lowlights are the best part. Mm-hmm. And the low light of the week for me was a double whammy in the United game. Watching Andy Robertson set up a late equaliser for Liverpool for Adam Lallana to turn into the United net. So as a United fan, it was a bit sickening to see that they had thrown away the win. Well, I don't know if thrown away is the right word, but yeah, they let Lallana sneak into the back post unchallenged, and it was a bit fortunate that it came through him, because I think it came through Harry Maguire's legs, maybe Lindelof's legs, I don't know. I
think United had 2 or 3 balls come straight across the face of goal throughout that match, so totally see one put over the line I was kind of happy with. But I'm with you. Robertson's assist was a double kick in the teeth, because they let the lead slip away. Now I'm pretty sure you and me as United fans before the match would have taken a 1-1 draw. I know I would have.
Yeah, but as the game emerged, United were, I thought, the much better team, and yeah, I guess as it went down the last final 10-15 minutes, it was questionable whether they would hold on, and yeah, they could have easily lost. But the most annoying part was I swapped Robertson for Trent on my wildcard, so I could have had those 8 points. And I even said it, if there was a move I needed to make where I needed to save 0.3, I would easily switch back to Robertson. But yeah, I think for the rest of the season I want Trent anyway. Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I did the exact same move in my own wildcard. It wasn't necessarily for Robertson. I'd already shipped him out, but I think Trent is not based on this week's performance, because he was one of the worst players in a Liverpool shirt, but he is FPL gold in terms of what he does as a fullback. It's basically a winger.
Yeah, essentially is a winger, and even against United, he was still up attacking.
The problem was he was just crossing from too deep, so there weren't good quality crosses in the box. He wasn't able to get forward. I thought actually Young did a really good job on him, and Mane was kind of started off on the right as well, and had a really quiet game. Yeah, apart from the goal he scored, which was handball.
Yeah, exactly. And Man owners would have been sickened to see that one being chalked off.
So happy that was chalked off.
I was sitting beside Mane owner when I was watching the match, and he jumped out of his skin when Mane scored, and yeah, my heart sank. But on replay, I was like, that's a handball. But, based on how VAR was operating this weekend, I wouldn't have been surprised to see Liverpool get 2 fucking goals for
Oh
that.
my God, VAR. Yeah, I've my own troubles with VAR, which I'll get to in a while. What was your low light, your biggest disappointment?
My biggest disappointment is probably a lot of people's biggest highlight this season, and that was a Sir John Lundstram, as I believe he is now known in the FPL community. He came off many managers' bench this week for a 6-point return. He picked up the clean sheet in the Sheffield United versus Arsenal match, where Sheffield beat Arsenal this week 1-0. Beat him tonight, the match just before we recorded. So him getting the clean sheet and then not coming off my bench, and knowing the sheer amount of benches he was coming off of, and the sheer amount of people who started him due to, maybe cheap defenses or whatever. That was my fucking sickener this week. Really.
Honestly, didn't realize he was on your bench until I came over here. And that would definitely be a kick in the nuts. I was on Twitter a small bit during the match. I've tried not to go on it too much because I just wanted to watch the game. And there was a lot of people praying that they would lose the clean sheet, and there was a lot of people praying that they would hold on to it. I was fixated on the match. I was like, my heart rate was definitely elevated for the last half hour of that game. And I was delighted when they kept on. That came close to being my highlight of the week because I actually watched that whole game. But no, I'm going to give it to Hudson-Odoi in mine.
Yeah, I think the Hudson-Odoi one, especially considering the differential he is for you in our mini leagues and whatnot, that makes more sense.
You touched on a really good point there earlier. You were saying the amount of people who had him coming off the bench based on players not playing. Ton of players didn't play this week. So, the obvious one you mentioned already was Salah. Mm-hmm. Aguero didn't start.
Didn't even play.
Yeah, he didn't play at all. Didn't even come off the bench. The likes of Yarmolenko didn't start but came off the bench. Son didn't start, came off the bench. Who else? Joshua King didn't start for Bournemouth, came off the bench. Yeah, there was a ton of people this week. And the most important one, Otamendi. Yeah, didn't even play a minute. So that's how I ended up getting Lundstram on the bench. So I feel justified that at least I missed out my Man City clean sheet, but I got it covered. Yeah,
and I wouldn't say ironically, I don't think it fits there, but one of my biggest decisions this week, outside of the to Salah or not to Salah, was Soyuncu or Tomori. Yeah, and I was torn. Like, I nearly put it on Twitter to help me decide, which do I go for? Who's more likely to keep a clean sheet? And I got it right, in the sense that Tomori kept his clean sheet. I reckoned, Burnley were far more likely to score than Newcastle were, and that did prove correct. But I guess I should have put Lundstram as my first sub and not Soyuncu.
Well, I thought I don't have Tomori. I was considering getting him on the wildcard because I think he's a brilliant player, but that would have been my 3 Chelsea players used up, and I just said I wanted to try out the Hudson-Odoi move. And I looked at it, and as you said, the decision you had this week, a lot of Chelsea's, the games you want to start Tomori are also games you want to start Soyuncu.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm just going to go with one of them, and I was happy to go with Soyuncu because I just think that Leicester have a better chance of keeping clean sheets, even though this weekend in particular, the Chelsea fixture was a much more nailed-on clean sheet fixture because Newcastle just don't look likely to score away from home. Yeah,
100%. But with Hudson-Odoi there, if he plays half as well as he did this weekend, I think it's as likely as him. He gets an attack in return as it is that Chelsea keeps a clean sheet.
Yeah, because I knew you had Tomori on, so I was like, okay, well look, Hudson-Odoi's got his assist and a couple of bonus coming, so that kind of cancels out Jur's move there. But my game week would have been absolutely shocking if I hadn't made my wildcard. I was thinking about it. I mean, I would have had the Robertson at 8 points. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I would have made points there, and I would have had Sterling. That's it. I had Pookie. I had Barnes. I would have had KDB, Sterling. What else in my midfield?
Look, we're living in the past right now, Seamus.
No other points, though.
But I do want to know what changes you made to your team, and you alluded to Hudson-Odoi, but there's another big player that you brought in this week. Quite a shrewd move, if I do say so myself. And I believe that was Raul Jimenez.
Yes, we had a question on it this week as well from FPL Chieftain. And he asked... Let me get his question up here, but basically he asked, why did I go for Raul Jimenez? I didn't mention it in last week's podcast.
No, you kept it very fucking quiet.
Yeah, it was one. He was kind of low down my list at the start of the week, So he's like maybe 5th choice, 6th choice. I was actually thinking of keeping Timo Pukki even before him.
I mean, playing against a team that had yet to keep a clean sheet, I think that was a close runner for my lowlight of the week. Outside of Wilson Blanken, the sheer fact that both teams who had yet to keep a clean sheet in the Premier League this season managed to get their first ones against each other when I've captained one of the strikers.
I couldn't believe that game. It was the one game I thought would be nailed on for goals.
Yeah.
I kind of thought, okay, maybe Norwich won't score. But yeah, Bournemouth is surely on for some goals.
I was calling 3-2.
Yeah, the only team... so the only team with a lower expected goals XG stat than Bournemouth this week was Norwich, which was 0.4, and Newcastle, unsurprisingly, against Chelsea, which was also 0.4. But Bournemouth only had an XG of 0.7. They had one chance, and one of those chances that would have contributed to that was when Dominic Solanke was played through by Wilson, and he fired it straight at the keeper. And if he had scored that, it probably would have been ruled off for offside. But because he missed anyway, VAR didn't intervene.
Fair enough.
So I mean, even if they'd scored that, so I mean, their XG is probably more likely to be like 0.5. They just didn't have any attacking fluidity at all.
Yeah, and it was definitely a massively disappointing match for a lot of FPL managers this week, unless you were a Rico owner. And Rico managed to get 8 points. Again, another player coming off the bench for a lot of people.
Yeah, that was an annoying one. He was coming off a lot of benches.
Yeah, he was. And, again, I don't even know how long he's going to keep his starting spot. He does look relatively attacking or dangerous in the attacking side of his job. But him and Bournemouth don't look like, anywhere near the kind of team that are going to start keeping enough clean sheets. But for his price, 4.0 starting off, he's now worked his way up to 4.2. It's, if you don't have a Lundstrom, who's now 4.6.
He's a great option. Is Lundstrom 4.6?
I think he's gone up to 4.6.
I knew he was at least 4.5 anyway, but I'm not surprised to see him go up to 4.6.
No, he's this year's Wan-Bissaka. We said it already.
But Rico was somebody at the start of the season I was thinking, maybe he'll get a chance. Didn't for the first couple of games, but now he's been in there for quite a while. And I very nearly went with him on my team, but I said I wanted to maybe take a punt on West Ham. When I didn't go for Yarmolenko, I said, let's stick Ryan Fredericks in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, with Otamendi not starting this week, while we may be monitoring it over the next game week or two, if I was looking to maybe make a mill and a half, Otamendi down to Rico, and Rico sitting on my bench isn't something that seems a bit silly to me. That seems actually that
could do quite well because you have Sayuncu and Tomori there along with Trent. Yeah,
and
that's not bad.
Yeah. So now we skipped over Booyaka Rey Mysterio there a few minutes ago. Raul Jimenez, Seamus, you looking at me with that puzzled look.
Wrestling references, they go over my hat.
Right over your hat. That hat's getting a lot of love tonight.
Yeah.
It's going to become a regular on the pod, is it?
It's my Tony Pulis magic cap.
Yeah, fair enough. But look, back to Jimenez. We kind of got sidetracked there with Bournemouth Norwich. Hopefully we don't have to go back.
Oh yeah, that's what you were getting at when you were like, you got somebody in, and then we just got totally sidetracked.
Yeah, totally sidetracked. You were bringing up FPL Chieftain, and he had a question for you this week regarding Jimenez.
Yeah. So I had it there. He asked, what was my rationale when I went with Jimenez? Because I didn't mention it on the pod last week, and he said it's a damn good pick. I hope other people agree. I was very happy with it. I wasn't so happy with VAR during the weekend because twice I was alerted that Jimenez had scored, and twice it was ruled off by VAR. And he finally got his goal, so I was quite happy with that, and he ended up getting 2 bonus as well. He actually got booked for the handball, which he scored for as well.
Yeah.
So he could have had even more points. But it was a straight choice for me between him and Vardy. I was talking about, I had Aubameyang in my team last week, and I was probably going to switch to Vardy. I kind of talked myself out of Aubameyang. I kind of made some predictions how this game would go. We both said last week we didn't think Spurs would do well this week.
No. Although I think I picked Kane in our hot shots.
Yeah, well, you did kind of hedge your bets. I kind of went, no, I'm not going for anyone. I don't think it. We did say Son was probably going to be a good captain choice, but it was a risk coming back from Korea on the international break. He didn't start, so that was a risk. But I still thought maybe Kane would score. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all to see them drop points. No, at all.
No,
and they should have lost that game.
Yeah, no, they should have. But going back to Jimenez,
Yeah.
it's like we just don't want to talk
No,
about
I'm talking
the guy.
about the alternatives.
Oh,
so
yes.
yeah, so the alternatives, like I didn't like Kane, didn't like Aubameyang. I have 4 million in the bank, by the way. So Jimenez could have been Kane or Aubameyang.
Yeah.
So then I was like, no, I've always said I don't like putting all that money into premium strikers. So I said I was going to go to Vardy, who's just below that bracket. Okay, because I just think then it's too much tied up, and I just don't think they're value for money.
What do you mean? You've always said you don't want to put money in premium
I'm
strikers.
always saying it in this pod.
Who got Kane in this season?
Yeah, and was that not against my strategy, my preseason strategy, the strategy I was going against last season? I break my own rules.
Last season you had Aguero.
I'm a Jonah.
You are. We'll get into this Jonah thing later on.
Yeah, we had to Google that. But anyway, in the end, I was okay. I'm going to go for Vardy. But just the stats, they weren't creating a whole lot of chances. They were a whole lot better defensively than attacking. And I said, you know what? This week against Burnley, who are kind of a tough team to break down.
Yeah.
When they want to be, especially when they get the first goal, which they did this week. I said, you know what? I think Jimenez is a better shout against Southampton, who are, not great defensively. And I could have been rewarded with a Jimenez hat-trick, except, in fairness, 2 goals he had ruled out were legitimately ruled out. I just like their upcoming fixtures. I mean, after this game now, they're playing Newcastle this week.
Yeah.
Gotta fancy that. Arsenal, leaky Arsenal. I know they're away from home, but they are the team last year who beat all the top 6 teams.
Yeah.
And then they've got like some nice home games with Aston Villa in game week 12. And Sheffield United, Sheffield United's probably a tough one now.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Newcastle, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Bournemouth and Sheffield United in the next 5 matches. I can see Wolves getting a few goals in that, and, Jimenez is their talisman. It's far... Like, I'll definitely be behind the couch next week, the proverbial couch, with Jimenez against Newcastle. The only thing
Just get him in.
No, I have no intention of it. I think, like, when I saw him in your team this week, I went, oh, this snake. I was like... That's, as I said, a shrewd pick. I was like, yeah, decent. Especially knowing you could have went. I knew you could have went Vardy or Aubameyang. And I was going, you know what? You turned your nose up at Vardy, who scored this week. And
I was a bit sickened to see
got
that
more
he
than
scored.
Jimenez.
Yeah,
worth noting.
Yeah, but points per million, it's all about the same.
Well, not when you have 4 million in the fucking bank. Vardy did get a goal this week. As you said, Leicester came from 1-0 down to beat Burnley 2-1. Again, a massive assist from VAR. But Jimenez was a shrewd pick, and you've a lot. He'll be the talk of the town now this week. You can mark my words. All you'll hear is Jimenez this, Jimenez that. Especially when you consider the name he made for himself last season.
Yeah, and the fact that Wilson disappointed again.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about Wilson and Bournemouth in general is they do this when the fixtures turn good. At the start of the season, when they were playing 2 promoted teams, people weren't satisfied that Wilson was getting an assist. Got 2 assists. It's not to be snubbed. You're not going to turn your nose up at it, but
not this week I wouldn't have.
Yeah, but 5 points in against promoted teams, and then people are kind of going, I was expecting more. I was expecting him to haul this week. Blank. They're against the worst team defensively next week. Watford.
Watford, I suppose I was going to say, are they worse than Norwich? But they did lose 8-0 to City. So, yeah.
Well, I'd have to double check the stats. I think they're like a goal or 2 more, and Norwich kept a clean sheet this week, whereas Watford conceded. So, you'd expect there to be goals there next week. But Watford kind of look improved the last couple of games. I know against Spurs were awful.
Yeah.
And just kind of blunt in attack. And Watford got an early lead and didn't have to do too much. But they look comfortable and should have had a penalty in that as well.
It wouldn't be hard to improve from absolute dog shit. That's all I'd say in terms of Watford. There's still 19 other teams that I think are better FPL options than Watford.
They're not going to... I don't think there's 19 really. I think they're not going to be like Huddersfield last season. They're going to be involved in a relegation battle. But they've got enough quality in that team, especially when the likes of Deeney comes back and stuff like that. If they get a bit of fight in them, they could be out of that relegation zone by Christmas.
I don't know if I'd agree
with
you
you
there.
I don't know, but...
Yeah. I mean, I say 19 other teams. The only other team that I would be less interested in investing in than Watford would probably be Newcastle.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Norwich, and I was going to say it has to be Newcastle. But yeah, definitely agree with you there.
No, Norwich, I still think Timu Pukki, for his price, is still a shout. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be, it's obviously not the same as it was at the start of the season and building up that bandwagon that he got going, but he's still playing for a relatively attacking team, and he's still priced pretty kindly. So I think between Pookie, Cantwell, Bundia, there are options in the Norwich team that, yeah, I'm not interested in right now, but if they get their act back together a bit, I can, like, these ones I would be looking at, whereas with Newcastle, there's no one I'm interested in, with the exception of maybe a cheap defender, and that's not even the case now.
Yeah, Fabian Schär or something like that, but they're not even that cheap. He's 5 million, is he? Or?
No, but I think you can get in there for 4.5 with someone.
Yeah, you could get Yedlin or someone like that probably.
Yeah.
Although God even knows. I haven't looked, so I couldn't tell you.
So I mean, Newcastle, I don't want to touch them with a barge pole, and Watford, you kind of alluded to it before we started recording, in the sense that you're just not 100% sure what their lineup's going to be.
Yeah, so we were kind of doing our drunk pack. I was thinking, you know what, I think I might fancy Watford this weekend, maybe, to get a goal, but I couldn't determine who's going to line up for him. Yeah. But Danny Welbeck went off after 5 minutes, which seems to be a recurring theme with him in seasons past. So he's gone off injured, so I guess that means Delafeu's starting now again, or?
Well, he came on, so, I mean, you got to imagine he's going to be starting next week. I don't know, and I don't give a fuck, to be honest about Watford.
Yeah, I can't really back him either. They're you don't know what their lineup is. So.
We've spoke about Watford for 3 minutes now, and that's 2 minutes and 50 seconds too much.
Yeah, definitely.
If you ask me. But you mentioned him, and as he was a shrewd pick. And I just wanted to go back to Wolves for a second, because they will be probably the most talked about team this week, in outside of the usual suspects.
Think so?
Well, I mean, any team that did what they did last year and still offers relatively decent value for money. They've
7 points in their last 3 games, if a draw this week and 2 wins before that, right? So they're in good form.
Yeah, and you mentioned, and it's why I've come back to them, is because you think that they may have turned a corner.
I think so. I think they've just kind of gotten used to the playing on Thursday, Sunday balance.
Yeah.
I think the squad have risen to the challenge. It's not like when Burnley are doing it, saying, look, so we're going to get knocked out of this anyway. They have a real belief in the quality of their squad. And they do have quality in that squad. They have the likes of João Moutinho, who's played in Europe before, and I think they're all rising to it. I think Jimenez is a quality player. I think I'd have to double check the stats here. I think I saw a stat saying that penalty he scored at the weekend was his 10th goal of the season, which is amazing because he's only had 2 or 3 in the Premier League.
The season. I was going to say he's not got 10 goals.
No, but yeah, it's like his 10th goal of the season because he's been scoring in Europe and stuff like that. So which he has been doing. So it's not like he's not in form.
I don't doubt Jimenez being in form. As in, I think he's a highly rated player, and rightly so. I think he's a fantastic striker. You even see some of the bits and bobs he did this weekend, and he just looks like he has that little bit of class. Do you know?
Yeah.
So I don't have any problem with Jimenez. I think Wolves as a whole are a decent team. I don't think that they've gotten used to the Thursday Sunday rotation. At least I'm not convinced that they have. I don't think they're, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just not yet convinced. And I think this weekend will be the big test. They've got Europa League on Thursday, and they're playing, an away match to Newcastle, who are notorious for being, the only thing they're notorious for is being tough enough to break down.
Yeah, true. But I think what made me think they turned the corner was that Man City game where they had been away in, was it Italy on the Thursday, and won the game in the last few minutes of the game. So the game they had to go the whole 90 minutes putting everything into it. And then they were playing Man City on the Sunday, and I was like, Man City are going to do well here.
Yeah.
They beat Man City quite well. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a smash and grab. They were stubborn, and they got their goals on the break, and they were quite decisive in what their strategy was. So I was kind of, Nuno Espirito de Santos knows what he's doing here. So I was like, that made me think, you know what, these guys could be kicking on. That's why I said I'd take it. If we're going to take a punt on anyone in Wolves, it's going to be Jimenez.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being too harsh on Wolves, and as you said, they should have got at least more than 3 Jimenez goals, 2 ruled off for VAR, 1-1. Lucky to get the point in the end.
Really, they were. Yeah.
He got late, and it was a silly penalty to give away. But yeah, I'm not entirely convinced. But look, this could be one of those.
I know why you're not convinced, because they had a poor start to the season, and we've seen this with Europa League contenders in the past, like Burnley and stuff like that. Plus, we were burnt by Jota. Yeah. I keep forgetting which one. Is it the Aston Villa guy is Jota and Wolves is Jota, right?
Yeah. Well, the Portuguese lad is Jota with a J. That's how you say the J in Portuguese.
J. Yeah, like Jose Mourinho.
Exactly. So I'm just going to say yes to whatever you say.
Jota. Yeah, okay. Well, I think that's why you're kind of burned by him. But look, I'm trying to get ahead of the curve, and half the time you do that, you just make the wrong call. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping I've come onto the right guys.
Well, you've made a good start at getting ahead of that curve. And this is fucking flying. We're already 35 minutes into this. And I think it's about time, Seamus, we hit the drunk tank.
So, drunk tank question, Ibrahim has already been answered. Okay, and we've spoken about him. There's way too long already. When Chieftain asked about why did I go for him, so hopefully I've answered that.
Yeah,
it just basically went, okay, I'm not going to go for Aubameyang. Okay, I could afford Kane. Will I go for him? No, Spurs in bad form. Vardy, I'm not convinced they're going to score too many. Vardy's a stat buster, and I did consider keeping Pookie, and then I went, you know what, Jimenez. Lowly owned, going to go for him. He does ask, Chieftain does ask, are you calling me a Wilson Jonah right now?
You asked me this before we started recording, and both of us struggled to fully nail down what a Jonah was. Now, we were familiar with the Jonah and the whales, or Jonah and the fish story. I just wasn't quite sure what characteristic that was playing on.
Yeah, I'd heard it before, but I wasn't sure.
So we Googled it, and we want to thank Chieftain for bringing this to our attention, because the Jonah, and this is courtesy of Urban Dictionary, is a sexual maneuver, Seamus. So if you've got any small children listening to this, please block their ears. 3, 2, 1, go. This sexual maneuver involves straddling a girl over with your legs across her neck and buttocks pressed against her breast while you repeatedly thrust your penis in and out of, that says your mouth, which I'm pretty sure isn't right, causing you to ejaculate in her mouth and on her face. So, commonly performed on the curb in between two parks between two drunk people. Also can be considered rape, apparently. I've read way too much of this.
So, are you calling me a Jonah? Is that what you're calling me?
I'm most certainly not calling you a Jonah. I don't know what's going on in Chieftain's head, but I'm not calling you a Jonah.
You sick fuck, Chieftain.
Yeah. But going back to the actual meat and potatoes of that question.
Did we figure out what it actually meant, a Jonah?
I think it is someone who
Can't be trusted?
Can't be trusted.
Is that what we found out?
We got confirmation on this, but we've forgotten it. We've forgotten it since we started recording. So, yeah, can't be trusted.
I think Urban Dictionary distracted us a bit.
That definitely fucking distracted me. I was not expecting that to pop up. Especially after we Googled it 2 or 3 times and couldn't come up with an answer. But no, herself indoors was more than happy to illuminate us on what the Jonah is. And I hold no resentment for you picking back up on Wilson, especially considering you fucking blanked this week. I said it to you before we started recording. If he had gone on and got the hat trick that I think, we both expected him to get this week, then I might be a little sour that you'd just come back onto him.
Yeah.
But considering he blanked, I'm like, did you fuck up?
I think I'll keep Wilson, but I think that's the end of me captaining him. Because the other option I was going to captain, I was considering KDB actually.
Yeah.
Didn't really consider Sterling because he hasn't done anything for me the last 2 weeks. I know he got 5 this week, but that's still not a whole lot. I would have probably put it on Tammy. Tammy was my vice.
Yeah, I was the exact same. Tammy Abraham or Wilson were the 2 picks I was looking at. KDB, a lot of owners did captain him this week, and they were unlucky not to see a big points return. Almost both Sterling and Kevin De Bruyne almost got big hauls this week.
De Bruyne hit the post, should have won a penalty, and had an open goal for if Jesus had played him in. Yeah. But Jesus opted to shoot instead of tapping it aside for Kevin De Bruyne to throw into an empty net. So Kevin De Bruyne could have had like a 15-point haul here this week.
Yeah, and I think captainers will feel themselves very unfortunate not to have come away with from that game with any attacking points.
Speaking of captaincy, because just you mentioned KDB owners, we both went for Wilson.
Yep.
Shit out of luck on that. Just go through the actual captaincy picks this week. The highest captain player this week was Aguero, 14.5%. Didn't play, so auto captain, vice captain's coming in for him. The next highest was Sterling, 13.4%. He got 5 points. Next was Abraham, which was 13%. Now that was 25% in the top 10k.
Yeah.
So he was quite highly owned by the top players. Again, only got 2. So Aubameyang next, 10.2%, 2 points tonight.
Yeah.
Then you're talking Salah, 9.5. So it's weird to see Salah fifth choice captain. He's usually first or second.
Yeah.
But 0 points. So a lot of people, that's kind of showing you where the trend is at the moment. You transferred him out. I transferred him out in wildcard. Again, none of these players, the highest points out of those 5 players was Sterling.
Well, what blows my mind is that you were talking about how lowly captained Wilson was.
He's didn't even have 5% overall captaincy.
Which is crazy considering... Well, what it really did for me was draw kind of a big line under how much of a bubble FPL Twitter can be at times, because I was 100% convinced everyone was going into this game week with Wilson captain. I was a little unsure last week when we recorded. I was talking about Abraham. As the week progressed, shit came to light that I couldn't ignore, i.e. Norwich's terrible defensive record, and the fact that I'd had Wilson all season and had gone back up to 8.0. I was like, you know what? Like you mentioned that this was him done for you in terms of captaining him from now on. Same for me, but this was my kind of litmus test. It was like, okay, if I can't captain Wilson against Norwich, who the fuck can I captain them against?
Yeah, he's not a captain option. I mean, we saw this last season. If you just keep him, he'll tick over at points. He'll score against United. He'll score against Arsenal. Things like that. But yeah, he'll blank against the likes of and it's not his fault. It's that Bournemouth and the supply to him is so unreliable. Yeah. They are liable to just put in a crap performance on any day. I remember they beat Chelsea like 4-0 last year. Just turn it on any given day. So it's weird. I'm going to keep him on my team.
I'm definitely keeping them, for their next match against Watford. They're even, following that up with a home match to Man United and away to Newcastle and Wolves. So I don't know. I will, for sure have him next week. Whether I have him come game week 11 or not, because I was on the edge of getting rid of Wilson 2-3 game weeks ago. Like against Arsenal, he blanked, and of course, I wasn't expecting much of a return. But I was like, look, that's his run over. He's broken his unbeaten streak as the season has gone on. Now, as it turns out, both himself and Aubameyang have gone on to blank in the next 2 matches after having a 100% return record throughout the first 7 game weeks. But I'm...
It's bound to happen, wasn't it? Regress to the mean.
It is, and he's 8 mil. He's gone back up to his 8 mil, so I've made the 0.2 back on him. If something becomes more apparent over the next game week or 2, because I won't be making any changes this week, I'll have no problem shipping him off. Because let's not forget that as at the start of the season, and as we've alluded to in several episodes, a lot of his returns were fantasy returns, and quite fortunate for fantasy owners to get.
Yeah, rebounds, or people scoring rebounds from his shots, and
open goals that fucking Angus Young decides to take out a defender with. You know what I mean? So, like, that's one goal he played again. He got 2 against Everton, who were, even though they had a decent match this week and actually kept a clean sheet, pretty shit run of form they were on.
Yeah, I know. You reminded me there, as you said, open goals and shitty lucky goals. Danny Ings has scored for the 3rd game in succession, 3rd game he started in a row. Another mess up, this time not by a goalkeeper. So he scored 3 goals this season. One was from Adrian mess up. One was from Alaris mess up when he was trying to kick the ball out, and he just ended up with 2 tap-ins. And this week, Connor Cody for Wolves completely missed kicking the ball, and he was true on goal in like a rat up a drain pipe and slips it underneath the keeper. So that's
4 goals this season.
4 goals.
4 goals and an assist, yeah.
I think he scored in his last 3 games in a row. That's what they said, yeah.
Last 3 in a row, he's had 4 this season, and he's got 1 assist. And, several minutes off the bench there. So he's not playing 90 minutes every week. He's 5.9 right now. Do I condone getting in Danny Ings? No, I don't. But... depending on where you're putting your funds elsewhere in the team, I'm not entirely against it. But Southampton's fixtures, as you could tell by Seamus's disgusted sound right there. Leicester at home next week. You gotta fancy Leicester to come away with some points there. Following that with City, Everton, and Arsenal. No, I'll be staying away from Danny Ings. But
literally just had to look at his fixtures because I have not been looking at Southampton as an FPL option this season, and when I saw they're playing Leicester, who are one of the tightest defences in the league this season, statistically wise, they're not giving up a whole lot of chances, they're not conceding a whole lot of goals. I don't fancy him to score there. And then Man City, you can't fancy him to score away at the Etihad. So yeah, the next 2 don't seem to be. And again, it's Danny Ings. If he scored 3 games in a row, I feel like, well, he's definitely not scoring 4 games in a row.
Well, he's definitely going off injured next week, isn't that the thing?
That's it.
But, regardless of 3 games in a row with only 3 striker options in your team and so many strikers, a far above Danny Ings in the pecking order, I don't see why anyone would be looking that lowly down.
So I think that's a comprehensive answer as to whether I'm a Jonah or not.
Yeah, very comprehensive.
Okay. So we should probably move on to the drunk tank question 2. Good thing this isn't a rapid fire, answer.
That was rapid fire. That was as fast as I could answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Well. Go. Next one. Go.
Next one. At FPL_Rossi. And he said, "Hi lads, I have Toby Alderweireld in my team. I know now what a crap pick that was, but at the time the fixtures look good for possible clean sheets. I need to dump him now ahead of the Liverpool game. Is Mendy a good option? He has Otamendi, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Robbo already." So I don't know about you, but that's like a 5.5 defender, a 7.0 and 6.8 defender, and Alderweireld is what, 5.5 or is he?
Yeah, something like that.
So he's thinking of going for Mendy, who's what, 6? I'm not sure. That's a lot of money in defense.
Yeah, especially in Spurs. I wouldn't be like he knows it himself. He wants to get off Alderweireld, so I'm not going to give him.
Yeah, he's identified the problem. So yeah, that we recommend coming off that. But 2 Liverpool and a Man City, and he wants to go for a second Man City defender.
Yeah, no, we actually went to the liberty, being the absolute professionals that we are. We went to the extraordinary lengths of looking at his team. He's moved up this week in the FPL Hangover mini league. He's up to 11th, and looking at your team, Rossi, I would be taking money out of my defense. I wouldn't be looking at Mendy. I don't think he's a viable option for Man City defense right now, considering how you already have Otamendi. Zinchenko is going to take minutes off of Mendy at some stage, especially with Champions League rotation. If Zinchenko plays this week in the Champions League, you'd expect Mendy to start at the weekend.
Yeah.
But I don't want a player that might play 2 in every 3 matches for the price that Mendy's coming in at.
Yeah, I mean, you can't... right now, the only Man City defender that you can trust is... What's the goalkeeper's name? Ederson,
yeah.
He's the only one you can kind of trust, because even Kyle Walker didn't play this weekend.
Yeah,
they played without a centre-back. They played with Cancelo and Mendy. You could have given me 5 attempts to name that back 4. I would not have picked that back 4.
I was the exact same. I was very surprised. And, just getting back to the question, I wouldn't be touching Mendy right now. I'd actually be taking a bit of cash out of my defence and dropping Alderweireld down to a Sayuncu, or as we mentioned, a Rico. Saving myself
Tomori, can he afford Tomori?
Well, he has 3 Chelsea players already. Mount.
Okay. Hudson-Odoi, I see there. He actually has a brilliant rank, 91k. He's doing really well. Good start to the season.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm not going to give him any shit.
Yeah, why are you coming to us, Rossi?
Get your damn podcast going yourself. It's easy.
We should get him on here to do a guest episode.
Yeah. No, Alderweireld is 5.5, and yeah, I'd be dropping him down to a 4.5, 4.2, saving myself the mill, and maybe you can invest that somewhere else down the line. But thanks for the question. And next one, Seamus.
Yeah, hopefully, look at the fixtures there and go for a 4.5. There's lots of good options out there.
Time is just getting away from us. And I'm like going, fucking hell, I thought this episode would drag. And nope, we're hitting fucking 50 minutes. Last
drunk tank question of the week, so we'll move on after this. It's from Lane, or Lynn, and she asks, with United's upcoming fixtures, can we consider bringing any of their players in? She's considering Rashford or James.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted, before we answer that question, I just want to shout out to Len there, or Lene, or however she pronounces her name. An absolute...
I think it's Len.
I think it's Len too.
Yeah, because the accent is on the first E, not the second E.
And it's short for Helen.
So it's got to be Len.
But I just wanted to shout out to one of the OGs of the FPL Hangover podcast. She's been liking and retweeting and all of the good things that a listener would do.
That we love to see.
Yeah, every week since we started doing this without fail. And I just wanted to say a big shout out to her and a lot of gratitude for that. And delighted to finally have a question from her on the pod. That was a nice surprise.
Yeah, she hasn't asked a question before. So we'll definitely answer that. And she does make a great point. United do have some really good fixtures coming up. And a while back I was saying, look, Norwich are at home to Man United. And I was thinking, you know what, that's not a bad fixture for Pookie. But if you look from the other perspective, I mean, United are terrible away from home. but Norwich can't keep a clean sheet apart from this weekend just gone. I think James could be a good option, although I was mostly impressed with Rashford this weekend.
I'd had the two of them had fantastic games.
Yeah, but James kind of looked at times like he showed his inexperience, whereas Rashford really looked quality. Like he put Van Dijk on his arse at one stage.
He did, yeah.
And he was clinical with his finish. You know, when he gets it in like that, when he doesn't have time to think and he has to finish first time, he's clinical.
And he followed a good performance in the internationals, scored a cracker for England during that break as well. So, yeah, Rashford seems to be kind of maybe coming back to a bit of form, but as we mentioned there a while ago, in terms of the limited amount of striker options we have and the vast amount of options available to us, again, Rashford's down the pecking order. I'd be more interested in Daniel James.
Yeah, I think you're right. If I was to think about it, like the person who impressed me most at the weekend was Rashford, but considering his price and the other options out there, he would be like only my fourth or fifth choice forward.
And I wouldn't be fucking surprised to see Norwich beat United this weekend.
Yeah, James is one that I'm calling him James now.
Yeah.
James is one who just seems nailed the team. He's going to be in there every week. Can't see him being dropped at all. So he would be the guy I would take a chance on. We already know he can score some great goals. Yeah. He's scored in the first few games of the season.
Another thing that might put you off Rashford was seeing Martial come on for the last 10 minutes of that match as well.
Yeah, but that is the other person I was just about to mention. Him and maybe Pogba, if we can find out more about Pogba's injury situation in time. If it looks like he's coming back soon, those are guys I might look at. I might wait until game week 12 before going for United asset, purely because I just think away from home, I'm not sure. I mean, we're United fans, but I feel like it's hard to back a United player now. If I was going to back one, James at 6 million is the guy I go for.
Yeah, maybe our bias is what's kind of putting us off, but I don't think teams are afraid of Man United anymore. So travelling to Norwich and travelling to Bournemouth, who I think got a result against United last year. I wouldn't be jumping on the Man United train just yet. But as you said, game week 12, their fixtures turn in the sense that Brighton at home, away to Sheffield United, that would be tough, and at home to Villa. There are three, fixtures that you don't mind having a United player in, but again, it depends on does a Callum Wilson blank the next two, because all of a sudden you've got a striker spot open, and
one I've been thinking about is Axel. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Twinzebe. Yeah. Purely because in the Liverpool game they went to a back five or three centre backs. And he was meant to be one. He's meant to start. Now he pulled up in the warm up with an injury, and Rojo started instead.
I was wondering how he got in the fucking
team. Axel, I'm gonna call him Axel. He was meant to start, and he's only I think 4.4 million. Now I could be off by 0.1 here because I haven't checked his price in a couple of weeks. But if that was only a small knock, and he's back for next week, and it looks like they're persisting with this treat the back, because that allows, because at the minute they've only got Fred and McTominay playing in front of the defence, and that gives, with the three centre-backs, gives them more passing options. They've got three centre-backs they can turn and pass it to, as well as then allowing Wan-Bissaka to push on up further forward. So if he looks like he's coming in there for 4.5 United coverage in defence, that's what I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I think that's a decent shout. I think United look at their strongest in the defence, from an FPL point of view. I think defensively that's where United are at their best, i.e. defensively. But either way, I wouldn't be touching United right now. I'd still be waiting to see if they can kind of string a couple of decent performances together. Hopefully they can kick on from the result of the result against Liverpool this weekend. But I wouldn't have any faith in United right now.
And I'd rather have Hudson-Odoi than James as well, if I think about it for a moment. I mean, if you are a United fan, you really want to get in on United, I think James is a good one to go for. Or wait a week and see if Martial is back in the team and maybe go for him. That's where I would go. But as I said, it just feels like there's better options in midfield.
But she's a United supporter, so maybe she wants to put a bit of faith in her own team. And if that's the case,
I feel like we've been no help.
No, not at all. But we're never any help. That's our jam. That's what we bring to this FPL podcast circus that's going around. But I think that's wrapping up the drunk tank. We're all done with that, aren't we?
We're all done with the drunk tank.
Brilliant. Yeah. So before we get on to our last segment of the show, I wanted to just quick shout out to the FPL Hangover Mini League and who's top of that. I believe it's the same as last week. Bozo, is it?
Well, I don't think I'm not calling him Bozo. The team name is called the Bearded Bozos. It's David Grant's team. He's still number one. A low scoring game week all around. Not too many scores, in the 40s even. I think I saw one score in the 50s. It hasn't fully updated yet, but I have seen that there's no one going to catch him this week. So he's still number one. It's kind of hard to do a countdown of the top five when the game there's a game on a Monday.
Yeah, no, because we don't have the full stats.
Yeah, we don't have the full stats. But David Grant's still number one. And we'll put up the top 10 on the page tomorrow once the pages are updated.
Keep an eye out for that, and a sip of beer for all the boys and girls who threw in a question, and to all the boys and girls in the FPL Hangover mini league. So that does bring us to the last segment. Seamus, what time is it?
It's time to get your balls to the wall.
You get your balls to the wall. Alright, so balls to the wall. How did we get on last week, Seamus? Straight up. Pull no punches, please.
Let's go straight into it. Yeah, you beat me in the hot shots and puck fadas.
Fuck yeah.
But I've each in the green sheet. So now it's come back to 4-all in both hot shots and puck fadas.
So does that mean we're equally as brilliant as one another, or we're both shit?
Yes, that's what it means.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I'll leave that up to open to interpretation. You went first and you picked Kane with your game week one choice. Your game week choice last week. Nothing there. Then I went with Wilson and Abraham, who I thought were the two best picks. They returned a paltry 2 points apiece. And it was your second pick, Vardy, who really came in and saved the day and got you 8 points. So that's 10-4, which brings it back to 4-all.
You'd imagine I'd have shown a little bit more faith in him when I was transferring in a striker this week and went with Vardy instead of Aubameyang, you know?
Yeah. Well, we must have drawn a week there, because there's 9 weeks and we're drawing 4-all, so we must have drawn a week.
I'll take it.
Puck fadas wise, it's 4-all in that too. And you beat me. I went first, and I went with Wesley. Okay. Completely forgot about Hudson-Odoi. You came in with him, and he got 9 points. Yeah. We already spoke about him at length, so good pick there for you. And Breen Sheets, I went first, and I got Tamori, who got his 5 points, and you went with Bolly, who lost his clean sheet to that mistake by Connor Cody, allowing Danny Ings to score.
Yeah, and it was a fortunate goal for Southampton, because I think they didn't look like producing a whole lot outside, in the attacking third outside of that. But yeah, no, you picked up the Breen Sheets. So what's that Breen Sheets bring us to now?
I'm 4-2 in the Breen Sheets. That's my second week in a row winning now. So yeah, I've established a lead, and that means I get first pick again in the Breen Sheets. But yeah, going first with the hot shots, I get first pick this week, and I can't look past that Man City game, so I'm going for Sterling.
Yeah, I think Man City at home to Aston Villa. Yeah, that's ripe for some attacking returns, which, based on how the season is going, means Villa win 1-0.
Yeah, it feels like we've been saying all week that, there's going to be points for Aguero and Sterling, and the last few weeks they just have not been coming. So,
well, 5 points for Sterling this week, but something else worth mentioning before we move on with the hot shots and Breen Sheets was the old double tap this week. Salah Aguero, for those who had captained Aguero and vice captain Salah, were left without a captain. I feel bad for those guys. That's a whole pile of shit that I wouldn't wish on my...
Why would you captain Salah when he's flagged? Vice captain Salah when he's flagged?
Yeah.
When you know that Aguero is always liable to be just rested by Pep.
I don't know. I feel like if you've got Salah and Aguero on your team and you want to just stick to captain and vice captain on them all season, that's a fair enough tactic.
I do it the whole time with Sterling and Salah, but if my vice captain had a flag, I would move that vice captaincy. Yeah. But anyway, I still expected Salah to play. I did not think he would. Now, in hindsight, usually Salah during international break would post a picture of him relaxing in a pool somewhere in a jacuzzi, kind of going just chilling.
So we should have known.
So we should have known he wasn't going to, because he was obviously at home crying.
Yeah, fair enough. I wish he had sent a picture of, I don't know, fucking his ankle in a goddamn wrap or something like that. But no, I just wanted to draw attention to the Salah Aguero double blank this week, and as bad as I feel about not having a Lundstrom coming off the bench or a captain blank, I definitely would feel a whole lot worse.
Oh, Joxer, that listens to this podcast. He's in our FPL Hangover mini league.
Hughes Jazz.
Quite well. Hughes Jazz. Yeah. Connor. He has a guy in his office league who's his triple captain this week on Aguero, and his vice was on Salah. Yeah. And that was his triple captain.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We were already... You're bitching about people sticking a captaincy on Salah when he's flagged. I definitely would be like, no way am I triple captaining Even Aguero away to Crystal Palace, I think, is a risky
That's
shout.
so risky. Yeah. I mean, neither of us picked Crystal Palace in our Man City players in our hot shots last week because we thought it was a tricky fixture.
Yeah, no.
So it turned out.
He got what he deserved. Don't feel bad for him for a single second, Connor. But look, that was your pick this week. You're fully confident that Sterling is going to bang against Aston Villa.
I think it's due. I think he'll bang.
I think that's fair enough, and I echo those thoughts with Kevin De Bruyne, a player I nearly fucking forgot about because I definitely wasn't picking Aguero, and I nearly just ignored City altogether until you kindly reminded me that KDB was an option, and so you're going Sterling, I'm going KDB, a complete reverse from last week. We're both picking City players as our number ones, and I don't fucking think anyone would blame us for it. But I also got third pick. And I'm going with Jamie Vardy, who I'm not entirely sure I'm allowed to go for, considering I went from last week. But as we're recording this, I'm not going to stop it and edit it. So I'm going to rule on this, Shem. It's official. It's locked in. Jamie Vardy.
Okay, I wasn't even ready. Is that a rule? Yeah, maybe it is. I can't remember.
You said at the start that when I was picking someone else, you were
I think that was for puck fathers. I honestly can't remember. We'll have to go over these rules.
We have to
We'll give it to you anyway. We'll give it to you anyway. If it's breaking the rules, it's for this week only anyway. My second pick then was Aubameyang.
Yeah.
I like him in home fixtures a whole lot more. They're playing Crystal Palace. Lacazette came back and came off the bench today, and it did offer an extra dimension to Arsenal's attack, and I think that will benefit Aubameyang next week.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people would be put off by the return of Lacazette. And, I definitely kind of was in the back of my head when I transferred in Aubameyang this week was, what effect would his return have? But, yeah, as you mentioned, I thought Aubameyang looked far more dangerous with Lacazette on the pitch than he did up front without him on the pitch.
Well, this leads perfectly into our puck fathers because that was your pick, your first choice.
Yeah, I mirrored your Arsenal shout. I do think they, they're good for a goal or two against Crystal Palace, and I've gone Lacazette as this week's puck fodder. He's my long shot. I think he looked hungry tonight. He also looked strong.
He looked very strong on the ball. Yeah, he held the ball up well, lent into the defenders. He's only like 2% owned. Is that what you said?
1.5.
Yeah, that's could be a nice differential if you haven't got the money to go for Aubameyang, but you want to get into this Arsenal attack for their good fixtures.
Yeah, I'd be waiting a little longer just to make sure that injury is fully healed. But yeah, I think for this week, puck fodder, he's a definition of it in terms of.
I don't like Arsenal in my FPL team in general, which is why another reason why I didn't go for Aubameyang last week. But they are good picks, so I will recommend them. For fixture runs like this, might be time to get in them for a while.
But that's my pick, James.
I do think they will put a couple past Crystal Palace. They're a sort of team that could keep it tight and beat you, especially away from home, or they could lose 3 or 4-0.
Yeah,
like they did against Spurs a few weeks ago. So
yeah, but it is a puck fodder, and that's why
that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've gone for Traore. I was going to say Jimmy Traore, Adama Traore for Wolves.
Pooh.
Yeah, who I think has been quite good in recent times. So he's kind of been playing in right midfield and then sometimes pushed up forward. And he's played another 90 minutes at the weekend. He seems nailed in the team at the moment. I got to make him he looks a better shout than Yota at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, as you said, because I gave you a bit of shit for picking Adama, considering the shit you gave him at the start of the season on the pod. And I stuck up for him. I was like, he actually has improved a lot, and he has. And it's a decent shout. Wolves against Newcastle now, it is an away match, and we know Newcastle are, capable of being stubborn. So it'll be interesting to see how Wolves come out of the Europa League fixture this week.
I think Newcastle have to kind of go at Wolves a small bit more because they're at home and it's expected at St. James's Park or whatever it's called now, Sports Direct Stadium.
I don't know.
Call it St. James's Park. Let's call it what it is. So if that's the case, then that might mean Traore has space to run into a bit more.
Yep, it's a fair shout. But look, we'll see how our picks get on next week. I want to thank everyone for listening this week.
Whoa,
what have I forgot?
Green sheets.
Every week I forget this. Every goddamn week. Green sheets. See, we should have done it at the start when you were talking about how you beat me.
Yeah. We'll just do it quick anyway. I beat you, so I go first. I fancy West Ham as a good option for clean sheets this week, so I've gone for Fredericks.
Yeah.
4.5.
He's in your team as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in my team. I think I'm going to start him this week against Sheffield United, who don't carry a whole lot of goal threat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that you'd say that, considering Sheffield United have just beaten Arsenal 1-0. You know?
Yeah, but Musette scored a goal as he's second of the season and he's their joint top goal scorer.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm not. You're 100. Your logic is spot on there. I think Sheffield, for all of their their glories, attacking isn't one of their strong points. Yeah. They are a strong unit though, so it will be interesting to see how West Ham, who, as we alluded to earlier on, lost 2-0 to Everton this week, how they respond to that defeat. They would have been looking for some points.
They played
Everton.
pretty poorly as well. Everton were well deserved to win. Everton should have that game wrapped up quite early. So I think there might be a bit of response, and it could even be 0-0, but I just think I can't see Sheffield United scoring.
No, yeah, and we'll see. My green sheet of the week was, I'm going back to Old Faithful here. I'm looking at Brighton, a team we've barely touched on this week, but as we've spoken for I don't know how many hours of podcasting since the season started, but I'm hopeful for Brighton to keep Everton out this week. I know we talked about Everton playing well against West Ham just there, but I still think that was more West Ham being shit than...
And Everton away are a whole lot worse than there when they're at home. Yeah. They're quite good at home. They're still finding it hard to actually put away their chances or create a lot of chances. They created a lot this week, was the most they've created in a while. But
with Sigurdsson not on the starting lineup.
Yeah, they changed the formation a bit, and they actually kind of went with a lot of pacey, tricky players. Sigurdsson, isn't renowned for pace or anything like that. So they had Walcott played unbelievable. Iwobi was fast, direct, and tricky to deal with, although his final ball and final decision making was quite poor. And Bernard is one of those tricky players as well. So,
and you had Davies and Gomez in the centre of the park, which Davies offering a bit more speed than, I don't know who'd usually play there, Schneiderlin or fucking something like that.
Yeah, Davies and Gomez. Gomez was a big boost for them. Yeah. So yeah, I think
we're promoting everything here, but I'm saying Brighton to bring back a bit of form from last year. Dunk, he's my man. 4.6, 4.7. I don't know what price he is right now. Could be 4.6.
I think he's still 4.6 unless he went up in the last few days. But I consider Brighton. I still prefer West Ham, but it's not a bad show.
No, I think they would be the match. The two matches that are probably most likely to at least get one shutout in it. But I believe now I'm okay.
Now we're done.
Now I can wrap up. All right. I would once again like to thank anybody that listened. Please like, share, subscribe, retweet, everything. We're on YouTube. We're on all of the platforms. You can reach us on FPL Hangover, at FPL Hangover on Twitter. You can also send us an email at fplhangover@gmail.com. Seamus, what's your Twitter handle?
I'm at FPL Drunk. My mobile phone number is 087. No, don't text me. I'll keep that to myself.
Do. I'll put it out after this. I'll attach it to the
Link
episode.
Link it.
Yeah. No, you can get us on Twitter. That's your most your best bet for reaching out to us. Thanks for tuning in, lads. I hope game week 10 is going to be a lot better for you than game week 9 was for me.
Yeah. And as always, may your arrows be green.
God bless.